This girl has 2 Teslas and is working at an ice cream parlor shop. Something there doesn't add up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not an
Did
economist.
she own it?
If she did own it, she's getting dirty with some ice cream, and she's in it to win it. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a San Francisco couple that is fined for parking in their own garage, their own driveway, their own property. A homeowner gets fined for parking on their property in their driveway.
Crazy.
Absolutely ridiculous. Second topic is going to be a Photoshop gone wrong on a real estate listing. This comes to us from Australia, but quite frankly, it could come to us from anywhere.
Oh, there's a lot of talk about that.
Where do you draw the line with Photoshop? Because you have virtual staging, which is essentially Photoshop, and then you have people touching up, making lawns greener, skies bluer, and then you ever see the purple skies? And you're just like, I've never seen this color sky in my life. And then we're going to finish it up from a article from Bloomberg about car payments and how there are some cities where it's less expensive to rent than the average car payment, monthly car payment. So we'll get into that.
All right.
I know, 3 juicy topics. Let's start from ABC News in San Francisco. San Francisco couple gets $1,500 fine for parking in their driveway, despite doing so for nearly 40 years. Shawn, let me set the stage. There is a house in San Francisco. Couple's been parking in their driveway in front of their house for 36 years without any sort of issue. All of a sudden, they get a ticket in the mail, not a parking ticket, but from the San Francisco Planning Committee. The city gave them a ticket saying that it is illegal to park a car on a driveway of their personal property. Apparently, there's code in San Francisco law that says you can't park in front of your house. You have to park in front of your garage if you have one, or in your garage, or on the street. And they got a $1,500 fine for parking on their own driveway. Shawn, what do you make of this?
It's so annoying. Hey, welcome to San Francisco, right? I mean, they're always going to do something off the wall like this. You know, these people have been living there for 36 years. They've been doing the same thing for 36 years, parking in their driveway. And if you look at the house, it's a driveway. There's no garage there. It's kind of like a pad, right, that they have in front. It's a small, narrow lot, and they're just pulling in like they've done for 36 years. What the city said was, oh, well, this has just flown under the radar. You shouldn't have been doing this the whole time. I'm like, it's flown under the radar for 36 years. You know that somebody's been driving past there for 36 years up and down that street. Some sort of, city employee has noticed it in the past and never said anything. Come on. Now it comes up 36 years later. That's bull. So I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. Why HOAs annoy people and why city ordinances and some stupid laws annoy people. San Francisco is a really difficult place to park. And this particular property is on a hill. And if you've ever tried to parallel park on a hill, it's freaking hard. So here's another thing. You're not allowed to park in front of your house, but you can park on the street in front of your house. So are they going for an aesthetic thing? Like, oh, we want your house to look good from the street, but the parking is right in front of your house anyways. It just, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to this of why, I don't know. I think it's a really stupid idea. And these people have owned their house. They own their lot. They should be able to do whatever they want to that thing. And that's the problem with the government kind of putting these rules in. Yeah, there's rules in place for safety and things like that. But when it comes to something like this, it's like our last topic last week. It was like, where are you going to find some sympathy for these people and just feel like, all right, it's cool. You're
the
good.
last topic being the HOA finding someone $40,000 for a fence that was an inch over the boundary. So city fined them $1,500 and then $250 per day if they didn't move their car from the driveway. Now, they moved their car from the driveway to the street. The city rescinded the fine of $1,500 and, of course, of the $250 per day. And what they said was the reason that they said there's nothing we can do about it because it's the law. I mean, what a bunch of baloney. I mean, if there's a law in place, like there are methods to go about changing an antiquated and outdated law. And they said that the reason that this is in place is because they didn't want to have like 6 cars parking in front of the front lawn of someone's house. And sure, that may pass if you think about it for like 5 seconds. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But I mean, these laws were made up so long ago that it's time to revise them. And they did say that they can be grandfathered in if they can prove that there's historic relevance to the driveway. So they went ahead, found an old picture of their daughter from 34 years ago holding like an ice cream cone. Car was in the driveway in the background. Sent it to the planning commission. They said not good enough, not old enough. Then, Shawn, they found an aerial photo from the early 1900s. Think horse and buggy days. I mean, this is an old house. It was built back in 1910. They found an aerial that showed a black, blob essentially that looked like it was either coming or leaving from the garage. I mean, it was hard to tell if it was a car or not, but I mean, what else could it be in the middle of the street in, the early 1900s? And then, of course, the city planning said this was too blurry and that we can't use that photo either.
It's crazy. And that's, that house has been sitting there. If you look at this photo from back then, there was nothing around. It was like a few houses. And theirs was one of 2 houses sitting there. And there's black blobs on the street, which are cars. And there's one pulling right in. It's just, it's a really aggravating thing for property owners. And these things come up every once in a while where it's like, I don't know.
So you just had a neighbor who just basically called the planning police on you and was like, oh, this is according to this section on this page of this statute, you're not allowed to do that. But at the end of the day, who cares? I mean, they have a driveway. The planning committee said that the solution would be to build a carport. Carports are ugly. That would look so much worse than just the way it is currently.
Yeah, you either have to build a garage or a carport. And a carport, I mean, if you've ever seen those, I would just, just to aggravate them, I would put up an ugly metal thing that went over and just say, all right, how do you like that? How aesthetic is that now? Like,
just the ugliest thing you could find.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. And the thing is, it's not like they can park 4 cars in front of their thing. Yeah. It's one car. There's only one car.
Where in San Francisco are you going to park 6 cars in front of your drive in front of your house?
Yeah, and the people that there was actually a news story about this, and the people they were interviewing, they're like, "There's nowhere to park anyways." I mean, and the city's giving us tickets on the street. You finally found a spot, they're going to ticket you anyways. So it's like you have to give some relief to these people.
Planning Chief Dan Sider said it was enacted decades ago for aesthetic reasons to ensure that front yards don't turn into parking lots. I don't know. I haven't seen many front yards in San Francisco. Not a San Francisco expert. Haven't seen too many. What I have heard, housing crisis and streets are overcrowded and parking and traffic issues. That's what I have heard.
Yeah, and if you've been to San Francisco, there really aren't many front yards. I mean, they're small. They're up against the street. There's little spaces, and that's what they're using to park. And that's a great idea.
The homeowner said, "What's the difference between a car parking in front of a house and a car parking in front of a garage? It looks the exact same."
Yep, no difference. Oh well. I mean, it's unfortunate. Hopefully they win. So are they still in this case trying to get rid of it?
They are now parking on the street, and their driveway remains empty.
That's amazing.
What a terrible use of space there.
Congratulations, San Francisco.
Good job. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to our second topic. This comes to us from the Daily Mail all the way down in Australia. The photo agency, real estate agency, has gone too far with Photoshop. This comes to us from Adelaide, a city in Australia, where essentially they photoshopped the most ridiculous green grass on some turf some grass that is just brown and gross and ugly, and it looks like a fifth grader went over it in Microsoft Paint in this bright green color. Some commenters were saying it was a new strain of grass called Chernobyl just because of the bright radioactive look to it. Now, Shawn, we all know that real estate photos get touched up, they get expanded, they hide things that maybe they shouldn't hide, and skies are changed. Where do you draw the line? Clearly, this is like an above and beyond case, but at like what parts of photos are you touching up? What parts of photos are you disclosing? And then what parts of photos are you seeing where it's like, ooh, that's unsightly, but that's just the way it looks, so we have to kind of leave that in there.
Yeah, well, we have professionals take our photos, but these kind of things happen a lot, and they're very prevalent. And especially now, what we see all the time, and I'm okay with this, right, is the sky, right? I have a listing that's coming on tomorrow. It's Thursday. I need pictures. I need pictures now. Today's an ugly day. I mean, it's cloudy, it's rainy, and most people want a beautiful blue sky. So I guarantee you the company that we have hired will put a nice blue sky behind there. It's just that ability, but they're not erasing anything. They're not changing anything. Is
it reasonable to think that if you went to the house at over the course of a week, you would see that sky or something similar?
It's nothing crazy. It's just a blue sky with some clouds, right? A pretty blue sky. You're going to see that at some point. You're not going to see Chernobyl green grass in this place, right? And that's the problem. What I've always thought was, back in the day when I took my own photography for listings, and this is before there were professionals out there that really did this. There's an example right there. See the wires going across?
Yeah.
You can't delete wires.
Can't delete wires.
Cannot do it because, that is deleting something that is in the picture.
You can't delete something where if someone shows up to the house and they hold up the photo.
There's a telephone pole in front of my house.
It's like where'd the telephone pole go?
Right, exactly. So you can't do that. And that's my understanding is that you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be doing that.
Of course not.
But what they're getting away with is, and a great thing that you just said was the interior virtual staging of properties, and you can tell when it's virtually staged. We personally hate it because when you go there, it's going to feel empty.
Yeah, why do we hate it? Let's drive down. It's not we hate it because we do actual staging and other companies don't. It's like I hate it because it doesn't add value to the consumer. You can look on your phone and then try to replicate it, but you can Photoshop a queen bed into a room that doesn't fit a queen bed. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can twist and maneuver and make these pieces of furniture work. And then when you go in, it's completely different.
Yeah. And the main thing about staging a property and getting nice pictures is the feel that you get when you walk into the home, right? The pictures represent that property, but when you go in, it's not going to feel stale and cold. That's why we stage properties, because buyers want to feel like they're at home. And so when you're not doing it and you don't want to spend the money, well, you're going to pay the consequences and you're going to have ugly, stupid photos with virtual staging in it. And that's true. It's like you can put whatever you want in that place. It's not actual, measurements. So it can be deceiving. But I have seen people make their grass a little greener. We brighten things up, but it's still the same grass, right? You just got to be careful. And this example was so blatant. We'll show you a picture of it, but they basically, this person had no Photoshop experience whatsoever, and they just went over it and it looks like AstroTurf.
There's another photo. There's another photo where not only do they replace the sky, but they removed like a water tower. And I was just showing a property in Falls Church where there's like an electrical tower. And if you're inside the living room, there's a photo. And if you look through the window, because they have the HDR, you can still see like a small electrical tower. And I think you have to leave that in there because you can see it. But I want to open up and share with you some of the things I have edited.
Ooh,
you ready
Matt,
for this?
let's see it.
So a couple years ago, it's not anything crazy. It's not like I'm adding a bedroom or a bathroom. You're out there thinking I'm going to Photoshop a Ferrari into like a driveway. So there was like smudges on the wall or smudges on the glass where it's like, okay, I can notice this. This is ugly. And so like I touched it up knowing that I'm going to go over there and clean it before anyone sees. Yeah. Additionally, Liberty Center, the pendant lights over the kitchen, they always burn out, right?
Always.
And so I had a listing where like two of them were on and one of them were off. And I'm like, okay, I am going to cut and paste this light bulb, put it over here, and it's going to look great. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive over, talk to Nora, and get a brand new light bulb in there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time to like go about this.
Done it many times.
But the key here is I'm not changing the property, right? What you're seeing online is the actual representation of the property. And then finally, there was a driveway that was recently refinished, and the birds did not like that. And so I did the old highlighter black, and I think the owner was going to refinish it anyways. And so when you get to the property, online the driveway's black, when you get to the property, driveway's black. So you're not really changing the expectation, right? This is all about changing expectations. If I look at this bright green Chernobyl grass, I'm thinking I'm getting bright green grass. If I look and there's no water tower, I'm thinking that there's going to be no water tower. So I think once you start to change the buyer's expectation because of photo editing, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah, and I've done exactly what you're talking about. There was one in Lake Barcroft that I sold where, you know, the driveway had mulch on it, and they had just gotten rid of the mulch, and it left this brown like stain of where the mulch was. Well, that's going to be gone after it rains or after we hose the thing down. So I made the driveway nice and all the same color. And, you know, when people went, there was no misrepresentation there. Same thing with light bulbs all the time. You know, what drives me crazy is, you know, of course you go to take the photo and there's the light bulbs out, and we replace all the light bulbs in our properties anyways, but inevitably there's something wrong, right? So I'm like, oh God. So of course I'll change that one and copy like you've done. But misrepresentation is big time. And here, this brings up another thing. You know, this is why, again, that we do 3D tours all the time, because a 3D tour, you can't hide anything. And photos, a lot of times, even the regular photos, they look so good, right? The photographers are so good. They're using fusion photography a lot of times. They're fusing these things together to get the best light. I went into a property yesterday in the neighborhood where I'm selling out in Sterling, this property. And the pictures looked good. I was like, wow, this is a contender against us. They're going to be priced above us, but they've got a pool in the backyard, blah, blah, blah. I went in and I'm like, man, this place is horrible. Like, it didn't look like anything like the pictures. It was dark and dreary. And the thing is, like, another thing we always say is turn on the lights in these properties. When you have a showing, go there, turn on the lights, make sure it's representative of the photos, because when people go in and they go into a dark home, it's like, oh, you know, my house, my personal house, my stairwell is dark. There's no windows to get it to let in light. So you have to turn those lights on. Another thing that I found funny was the pool, right? The pool was, in the photo, was beautiful. It's a beautiful pool. I went back there and it was hazy, nasty water in there. Like, it was still bluish, but greenish, hazy.
Could it have been sitting on the market for a while and then that's what caused it? Or do you think the photos were touched up to add blueness to it?
I think it was touched up to add the blueness to it.
So that's a little sketchy.
Yeah. And so, you know, once you get there, you're just like, oh, this isn't exactly what I thought I was getting into. But it was to my delight, because I felt like, all right, we're beating out this listing for sure, right? And we're pricing it right, and we're going to price under them, and they're not going to show as well.
Does yours have a green, disgusting pool in it?
It does not have a green, disgusting pool, but it does have a nice hot tub. We'll be doing a video out there this afternoon.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So
let's move on to our third topic. This comes to us from Bloomberg. Here's where car payments cost more than rent in the United States, Shawn. I mean, just live in your car.
Yeah.
You'd save on rent. A record share of new car shoppers are being saddled with monthly payments topping $1,000 a month. I have a problem with that sentence. Buying a new car with monthly payments topping $1,000 a month. If you buy a new car and your payment is $1,000 a month, you cannot afford that car. What types of cars are people buying that are over $1,000 a month? That's scary. That's scary to me.
it is scary, but the thing is, car prices have gone up so much, right? I mean, if you look at, like, all right, I like Jeep Wranglers. I've never owned one. I've always obsessed about them. And if you've looked at the prices of those things and the resale values of those, they hold their value so well. But the Wrangler right now, you're getting them for $60 grand, $55,000 for a Jeep Wrangler that is loud inside. It's, but if you do the numbers on that payment, right? So the most expensive car I've ever bought was $67,000. That's a lot of money. Right?
Was that the Land Rover?
Yeah, it's and I bought it brand new. Now that payment was really close to that, right?
It was under 1,000, but close to 1,000.
Yeah. And I put a good amount down. And that's the thing is you got to look at interest rates. But so many people are buying these cars. And I've never bought one more than that. That thing's paid off at this point. I bought another car, which is a lot less.
What was like? Did you get a 72-month loan or a 54?
I
or
think
what?
that was, it was probably a 60. It was a 60.
60.
So it was a 5-year
60.
note, right?
Yeah.
So now what people are doing, they're pushing those loans out further, 6-7 years. So the Tesla
Longer loans.
wasn't as expensive as the Land Rover, but I pushed that out for 6 years and I put a good amount down. So my payment isn't too bad, but it seems like cars have gotten so expensive. They're almost as expensive as, well, they're more expensive than our parents' houses, what they were back then, right?
Yeah.
So if you do that math, it's like, geez, oh man. And it's funny, you know, one of my clients used to work at Ferrari, right? And he was a financial guy at Ferrari. And he was like, you know what? The funny thing is most of the people that come in here can't afford these cars. They're bankruptcies in the past. They're this, that, and the other thing. And so you think that people who are driving in these cars are like, wow, they must be wealthy. They're barely skinning by. A lot of them. I'm not saying everybody, but like that's the thing is it's a facade, right? This world has become a facade with social media posts and everything else. And so you just got to be careful on what you're falling into. But yeah, I mean, these payments have gone up so much. There's $100,000 cars that aren't that great. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, on that facade note, I have a Tesla and I was driving near Culpeper, Virginia.
Yeah.
Middle of Virginia.
How many miles did you have left?
Not many. Cutting it close.
Matt's thing is
I pulled into the Moo through an ice cream parlor. Fantastic reviews. Loved it. Got a chocolate chip cookie dough and mint chocolate chip. But
that sounds great.
I pull into the parking lot with my Tesla Model Y. And what do I see? But almost the same car, same color, Tesla Model 3, so smaller one. And it's backed in. I always back in. And I was like, I love this person already. I'm going to park next to him. And so I'm looking around and like, as soon as I parked and like started walking, there was like a group outside. There's only one group there outside sitting at the picnic table. And they all like turned, like, you know, when someone is like clearly talking about you, they all turned around and like looked at me. I'm like, oh, that must be my fellow Tesla compadre.
Yeah.
And so they didn't say anything, but I just walked by him and I get up to order my ice cream. And then the girl at the counter is like, are you the one that drives the Tesla? And I was like, yeah. And then she yells to the back, hey, so-and-so, this is the guy that drives a Tesla. And then out comes one of the young ladies that works at the ice cream parlor saying that she's the owner of the new Tesla Model 3. Wow. A $40,000 car, $45,000 car.
Right now, that thing is $56,000. Dual motor, $56,000 because they've gone up.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50,
so,
I mean, even if you get the simple one, yeah, you're talking high 40s, maybe 50,000.
Girl at the ice cream counter couldn't have been sweeter. Hooked me up. Driving a $45,000 car, and I'm like, oh, how do you like it? And she's like, oh, it's great, but I also have a 2014 Model S, and I like that one as well. This girl has 2 Teslas and is working at an ice cream parlor shop. Something there doesn't add up.
Yeah,
I don't know. Not an
Does
economist.
she own it?
If she did own it, she's getting dirty with some ice cream, and she's in it to win it. But
yeah,
what are we coming to where your Uber driver is driving an Audi, or the girl making your ice cream in Culpeper, Virginia, is driving a Tesla? That to me is like a red flag. That's scary. And according to Edmunds, in June, record share of payments topping $1,000. I think I've told you this anecdote before, but when I was looking to purchase the Tesla, I purchased a Model Y for, was it 57? Let's call it 57,000 in September of 2021. My monthly payment on that is $450. When I was figuring out, I put way too much down, but I didn't want this $1,000 payment. When I look online on YouTube of how to afford a Tesla, people are saying, here's how I afford my Tesla, and their payment's $850 a month. I'm like, you can't afford that car. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I mean, but
Just
it's
get worked up.
you put a lot of money down on it to make it affordable, and there's a lot of people that are just so their payments are so to the top of their level, right? And then they go and they probably live at their parents' house. You know, a lot of these kids, a lot of these younger people that have these really nice cars, and you know, I've seen so many examples of this where I'm like, wow, look at that car, and it's parked in front of this tiny little, you know, house, and their car payment's got to be more than their house. It's crazy. So, I mean, to each their own. But
when I was this girl's age, you know, I was driving a Saturn S1 that I bought for like $1,000.
You should have seen what I was driving, dude.
Yeah.
No hubcaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I drive a Tesla because I think that it helps my business.
Yeah.
The age old question. As a real estate agent, Shawn, does your car matter? Like, I sell houses in Northern Virginia, right? When I pull up to a $1.5 million listing, I want to pull up in a Tesla. Like, I don't want to pull up in a Honda Civic. And you may have those people where it's like, oh, well,
it doesn't matter.
If you have a Honda Civic, then that shows you're economical and you can, you know, you're trustworthy. And it's like, no, I don't want to pull up in like a broke car. Like
it shows that I like quality.
Yeah. I like quality. I like technology. Like, this is a brand. This is an image thing. If I wasn't a real estate agent, I wouldn't have gotten a $57,000 car. So the only reason I have this car is it's a business expense. It helps out my business. It creates an image, and ultimately it's a net win for me, and I can write off a lot of it.
And do you like the car now that you have it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an amazing car.
But I don't think I would have never gotten the car if I didn't have to get the car. Like, I knew I love my Subaru, but I knew I was kind of ready for that next step. And then when I saw that Mercedes gets like 20 miles to the gallon, it might have even been less for the car, like the GLC. It might have been like 12 miles to the gallon.
It's
I was
crazy.
like, I'm going to go broke on gas.
That's like
I don't want to go broke in my luxury car.
Yeah. Our Land Rover is, to fill it up the other day, was $86, I think. And that thing chugs gas. I think we get 16 miles per gallon. So
16.
It's 16 miles a gallon. And you know, when you're cruising. So the Tesla now, I'm like, man, this is great. I plugged it in this morning, got a little juice, drove out to Sterling, got pictures done, drove back here, plugged it in for a little bit longer. I mean, it's so addicting once you have the Tesla and you're able to just plug in and never go to a gas station. I mean, I love it. But let's get back to $1,000. All right. So we've gone on these car tangents. We love cars. I love cars. But where is it that you can now rent for under $1,000?
Well, I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah. Let me hear it.
One more stat for you. According to Cox Automotive, in May, the average car payment, $712. So
average.
Yeah.
Average car payment is $712.
$712.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And that's where it's like, where are we going wrong?
Yeah, and so clearly, like, inflation, a lot of people are talking about that, but there are cities in the United States where you can get a one bedroom for less than $1,000, you know, less than maybe even $700. Akron, Ohio, and these are legitimate cities. It's not just like some podunk town. You know, we're talking about Wichita, Lubbock, Shreveport, Lexington, Kentucky, El Paso, Baton Rouge, all under $1,000 a month. And especially when the economy looks like it's not, you know, firing on all cylinders, and inflation is there, and the stock market is taking a dip. You know, rent is always a possibility. Like, you don't always have to buy every single time. If you want to rent and hang out for a year, that's certainly a possibility. But when car payments, when someone is buying a new car and paying 4 digits for it, that to me is a huge red flag.
Yeah, I've never done that. And you know, the thing about rents, they're going up, and to be able to find something under $1,000 is amazing. My niece was just reaching out to me about renting a place in Kingstown area, which is Alexandria. And I'm like, oh, it's got to be pretty affordable out there. And I look at the rents and I'm like, holy crap. When did it go to $2,200 for a one bedroom out there? I mean, that's Arlington prices.
For a one bedroom?
I believe it's a place that I used to want to live when I lived out there, right? And those things used to sell for $210,000. And I looked at how much it sold for, $210,000. But they're charging now $2,200 a month. It might be a small 2-bedroom, but still, for Kingstown, $2,200 for a tiny little place, 800 and some square feet. Like, It's a lot of money. And she's a school teacher. And she's like, I don't know that I can afford this. And so there you go. You run into this affordability problem for all of these workers that are new into their jobs, they're teachers, they're firemen, whatever it is. Affordability is tough. It sucks.
Yeah. And, you know, for those people that did get in on like the car buying rush, you know, paying over MSRP, like everyone's been conditioned. What's the MSRP? Okay. How much lower can we go from that? Now it's like, what's the MSRP? You know, how much higher are we going to go? Well, the chip shortage, I think, is still going on, but to a lesser extent, where there's starting to be like more cars available. And so the people that did get those inflated car prices with the longer loans, they may have some trouble being underwater in the next couple of years if, you know, values for cars like flatten, or if, you know, they get laid off or something like that. So that could compile and then, you know, shake up the real estate market too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, all right, cars are a little bit different than real estate, but it's the same concept, right? And when you go and you want a new car and you trade in your other car and that company gives you X amount of dollars for it, they're usually giving you less than it's worth, right? And so you've amortized this loan for 7 years, and then you go to try to sell it or get your new car and you don't have it paid off, and it's worth, you know, $30,000, and they're giving you, you know, 25, you're $5,000 negative. There goes your payment. That happened to me when I was younger and I bought my first car, and then my second car, I had negative amortization basically. And I had to lump that into the next loan. And so this is going to keep that car payment up over and over again. And the funny thing is, you know, on the full other scale of things, my brother just got a new car. He bought a new Bronco.
Oh, that's right.
So he ordered this Bronco a year ago and he just got it. And my brother's the type of guy that never bought a new car. This is like his first, he's in his 50s. He's never bought a new car. And he's like, man, I love this car. I'm like, it's about time, you know? But that thing, you know, even buying it a year ago, he didn't pay above MSRP, but he got it for like 51 grand. And he was like, I don't know about this payment, man. It's pretty high, you know? So he paid things down and, you know, got it down. He's always payment conscious. And that's what I think the idea here is like, listen, guys, you don't need it, right? Make sure you can afford it first. Find your place to live. There are ways to build wealth, and building wealth isn't in a car. It is in real estate or is in investing. And, you know, the sooner that you can get into investing in real estate and using it as a tool to make you money, the better off you're going to be. Then you can afford that house. And that's what I did. You know, I did not buy a nice car for a long time. And then when I said, you know what, I can afford it and I need the write-off, that's when I said, I'm going to do it. And even then I was scared with that payment. I'm like, man, is that a big payment? But I paid it off and now it's a positive for me. So just be careful. You don't need it. Chill out. You don't have to have what everybody else has. You have to work and gain the money first and invest and be smart about it, because everything moves quickly. And pretty soon you're going to be old like me and you're not going to have any money. And you don't want to be in that situation. So start investing young. Sorry, that's my talk for you.
I have like so many other thoughts on cars, but you put it so nicely that I don't want to try to one up you on that. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are on your car payment. And if you feel comfortable sharing your car payment, definitely do it in the comment section below. My car payment, $450 a month for a Tesla. Not bad. And
do you have rent that is cheaper than your car payment, or rent that's cheaper than $1,000? We'd love to hear where that is, because around here it's expensive and there's a lot of people struggling. So they'll get multiple roommates to keep that thing low. So it's tough, man. Yeah. What do you think? Well, I think we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out like the action item. Like, okay, we talked about this. Like how can I use this? I would just say like, you know, just be careful. You know, the new car is always going to be there. Like you can always go out and get a new car, and you know, just make sure you can comfortably afford it, I think is my whole shtick. Yeah. I mean, cars are depreciating assets. Right. Houses are appreciating for the most part. So invest in real estate. That's or rent in Akron, Ohio. Right. There you go. Rent somewhere super cheap and, you know, build wealth. buy Airbnbs and buy properties that you can rent out and make money per month, and then you can just chill.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, hit the thumbs up button.
Please
but
do.
also, until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.